Data types in Excel VBA explained, avoiding the mistakes that break your code. Have you ever written VBA code that looked perfectly correct, but suddenly you got a strange error message like type mismatch, or maybe your calculations produced completely incorrect results? Or perhaps your application worked fine during testing, but started behaving strangely when real users began entering data. Believe it or not, many of these problems come down to one thing: using the wrong data type. Data types may seem a small topic, but they are one of the most important concepts in programming. In fact, choosing the wrong data type can cause bugs, slow down your applications, waste memory, and even crash your code. Today we are going to learn how data types work in Excel VB and how professional developers use them to build reliable business applications. Let's get started. Welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, my name is Raphael, and on this channel we learn how to transform Excel into a powerful software development platform using VB. In a previous episode, we learned about variables. We discovered that variables are containers that allow VBA to remember information while a program is running. But here is an important question. How does VBA know what kind of information you are storing? Is it a name, a salary, a date, a true or false value, a product price? That's exactly why data types exist. And if you are serious about building applications like payroll systems, school management systems, inventory systems, POS applications, staff attendance, and many more, then understanding data type is absolutely essential. Today we will learn what data types are, why they matter, the most common VBA data types, common beginner mistakes, and how professional developers choose data types. What is a data type? Let's imagine you are moving into a new house and you have several boxes. One box contains book, another box contains clothes, another box contains kitchen utensils. Before storing those boxes, you place a label on them. The label tells you what kind of content can be found inside the box. Data types work exactly the same way. A data type tells VBA what kind of information a variable is allowed to store. For example, a student name is stored as text. A student age is stored as numbers. A registration date is stored as date. A user's admin status is either true or false. Each item requires a different data type or different storage location. Why data types matter? Many beginners ask, why can't VBA figure everything out automatically? Sometimes it can, but professional developers don't leave important decisions to chance. Let's look at an example. Imagine you are storing student age in this way. Deem student age as integer. This makes sense because age is a whole number. What about if we store student name as string? Technically, VBA may allow it, but now it will treat age as text instead of number. This can cause calculation problems later. Using the correct data type helps VBA understand your intentions. Common data types that you are likely to come across in VBA. One of the most common data type is string, and a string data type is used to store text. For example, student names, product names, employee ID, addresses, email addresses, and many more. We often declare this variable in this way. Deem student name as string. Set student name as Raphael, John Doe, or whatever. Now VBA will know that student name contains text. Whenever you are storing words, names, or sentences, string is usually the correct choice. The integer data type. The integer data type stores whole numbers. For example, age, quantity, number of students, number of products. When we want to use integer data type in VBA, we often say deem quantity as integer, set quantity as a whole number. In this case, 25. This works perfectly because 25 is a whole number. However, there is something important beginners should know. Integers has limits. It can only store relatively small numbers. For modern applications, many developers prefer using long instead, and we will discuss that shortly. The long data type. Long also stores whole numbers, but it can handle much larger values. For example, we would say dim student count as long. Professional developers often use long instead of integer because it provides more room for growth. For example, a school might have 500 students today, 5,000 students tomorrow, and 50,000 students in the future. Using long in this type of application ensures that your application continues working as your data grows. Let's now look at the double data type. Whenever you are dealing with money or measurement, you often need decimal values. So in this case, you would say dim product price as double, where product price can be equal to 1499.99. Double is commonly used for prices, salaries, discounts, tax calculations, percentages, and many more. If a value can contain decimal, double is usually the safest choice to make. The date data type. Many business applications work with dates. For example, student registration date, employee hire date, invoice date, attendance date, and many more. So we will declare it this way. Dim registration date as date, where registration date will be equal to date or now. The date data type allows VBA to perform date calculations accurately. Boolean data type. This returns true or false. Sometimes information only has two possible answers. For example, is the user an administrator? Is the invoice paid? Is the attendance complete? In declaring this kind of variable, we would say dim is admin as boolean, and is admin will be equal to either true or false. Remember that boolean variables can only store true or false values. This makes them extremely useful for controlling application logic. The variant data type. This is a flexible data type, and it is special. It can store almost any type of data. For example, it can store text, numbers, dates. We often declare it as dim and value as variant because today it could contain text, tomorrow it could contain a number, next week it could contain a date. This sounds great, right? But not always so, because variant uses more memory and it is slower than specific data types. Professional developers use variant only when flexibility is truly required. Let's look at this data comparison table. String stores name, for example John Doe, whilst integers store whole numbers, for example 25. Long, on the other hand, can store larger whole numbers, so we have 50,000. Double stores decimal numbers, and we can have 1499.99. Date stores only date values. Boolean gives true or false values, whilst variant can handle any data type. Let's look at some of the common mistakes that may cause errors. Mistake 1. Using string for numbers. It is wrong for you to say dim salary as string, but correct to say dim salary as double. Using integer for large numbers. It is wrong for you to say dim student count as integer, but correct to say dim student count as long. This is because schools grow and your application should be scalable. Another mistake is using variant everywhere in your code. It is wrong for you to say dim name as variant, dim age as variant, dim salary as variant. The correct practice is for you to use specific data type whenever possible. Let's take a look at a real-world example from Rafina systems. Let's imagine we are building Rafina School Manager. We would use the following declarations. Dim student name as string, dim student age as integer, dim school fees as double, dim registration date as date, dim is active as boolean. In this way, each variable stores a different type of information, and each uses a different data type. This makes the application more reliable and easier to maintain. The same principle applies in Rafina POS, Rafina Pay System, and Rafina Attendance. Professional applications are built on correctly chosen data types. How to choose the right data type? Whenever you create a variable, ask yourself, what kind of information will this variable store? If it is text, use string. If it is a whole number, use long. If it is a decimal number, use double. If it is date, use date. If it is true or false, use boolean. This simple habit will eliminate many future problems. One of the habits of professional developers is being intentional. Don't simply write dim value. Instead, write dim monthly salary as double. You are not helping VBA, you are helping yourself. Months later, you will immediately understand what your code is doing. Good data types and good variable names make code easier to read, maintain, and debug. Today we've learned what data types are, why data types matter: string, integer, long, double, date, boolean, variant, common mistakes to avoid. Understanding data types is one of the biggest steps towards becoming a professional VBA developer, because every reliable application depends on storing the right kind of data in the right kind of variable. In the next episode, we are going to learn about something that can save you hours of frustration. That is option explicit, the one line of code every VBA developer should use. You will discover how a single statement can prevent many common programming mistakes before they happen. If you found this tutorial helpful, give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe for more Excel VBA development tutorials. And in the comment below, tell me, which data type do you think you will use most in your VBA project? Thank you for watching and see you in the next tutorial. Bye for now.